One of Utah's newest members of the House of Representatives is making headway right now in politics. This year, Utah chose Blake Moore to represent our state's 1st congressional district. The Ogden native replaced Rob Bishop, who had been there for many times and he retired after 9 terms. So joining us here today is Congressman Blake Moore to talk about how those first 100 days in office are going. Congressman, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We mentioned Rob Bishop right here, you replacing him. That's got to be an interesting position to fill. Someone here in Utah who had been in that office for a long time.
Yeah, Representative Bishop, he served 18 years, and coming in and, you know, a lot of my new colleagues will ask me, so what are you doing, who you're replacing? And I'll mention it, and they know him, they understand, they've got good relationships with him. And Rob's team was always able to keep focused on what was most important. That's what I loved about watching his time, and even Jim Hansen from before. There's a few key things that you can really focus on in the 1st district, and that's, of course, Hill Air Force Base and issues with respect to our public lands. And those are areas that he was always focused on, and it's a recipe for success, and we wanted to jump right into that and get involved in that as much as possible. Is
that the direction you want to take your office and your time in office here?
Yeah, so it's obviously a key piece, and we were really fortunate to we worked really hard to work all the channels and all the angles that you have to play in Washington to get on the right committees, and just showing how important a few key things were. Being able to get on Armed Services Committee, Natural Resources Committee, I think set us up for some real success.
And that's an interesting position you could come into, obviously not only filling shoes, but then you have his ideals, right, that a lot of people are used to. But as you mentioned, you kind of want to make your own mark. There's an op-ed that you wrote about the party and kind of where the party's going. Do you feel a lot of political pressure to be able to vote a certain way as a representative of the Republican Party here in Utah?
Yeah, I actually answered this question yesterday with the Deseret News when they asked about that particular piece of pressure. And I'm finding that as long as my leadership knows where I'm at and I'm consistent, there's no issues. And they're willing to support me in whatever I ultimately decide. And I think that's a big surprise to people, because I think you see a lot of shows and, you know, you get the sense of what Washington is and you're going to get pushed in certain ways. And as long as you're consistent, then I think you get a lot of respect from people. So,
what's the reaction been to the way that you voted on a couple of key issues as of lately? Like, so for example, people at home know that you voted in favor of Liz Cheney, not removing her from her leadership position, and then in favor of the Utah Commission, or the commission, to be able to investigate the Capitol riots. So those are 2 key issues that a lot of Republicans in Utah don't necessarily see eye to eye with you.
Yeah, and so the thing to remember here is, with respect to those votes and a lot of these difficult decisions that we've had to make since joining that we weren't expecting to be in this situation, our team has been focused heavily on just how can we be productive. And so aside from all that, I'll answer the question, but aside from all that, it's the committee work that we're doing. It's the work that we're putting together, real legislation. We're going to have probably 6 bills that we will have introduced. I say we. I really like the team aspect of my job. And so we're finding ways to be really, really productive. But with respect to those questions, it's just I've just tried to be consistent on it. When I did not impeach, the key thing that a lot of our party was doing was, and leadership had suggested, there's a commission that we're going to go about doing, and there was legislation put together right after that. And I've been, you know, publicly supportive of that ever since January, and I still landed there today. Things changed a little bit politically, and you know, you go one way or the other. This is just something that I felt like I was going to be consistent on. I was asked to speak on behalf of Representative Cheney a few months ago when this vote came up, and my position just hadn't changed. And I think that's when people will learn to trust me. And so if you disagree with me, you'll know that I'm being objective and consistent, and will, you know, and I think that's what ultimately earns people's trust.
Well, it sounds like you have the ideas that you want right here, and that may or may not that vary from issue to issue with the way the party's going.
That's the beauty of our party, and that's what I tried to communicate in the op-ed was we have to be the party of the big ideas that are focused on what our country needs to get back on track in a lot of ways, and that's what I'm focused on. A lot of this stuff is distractions, but I'm really focused on those big ideas to make sure that our economy has what it needs, that our workforce and our citizens they have trust in our government. We can you know, be responsible. Look at what Utah is able to do. Utah, in a tough economic time, downturn everybody expected, Utah stayed really strong. We were able to address all the issues that were taking place. We don't do everything perfect, but when you compare us to the rest of the state, I think those are the kind of things that I want to take back to our federal government and use a lot of those best practices. And that's the things that I'm focused on. A lot of the other stuff can be distraction, and I just want to get our country and help get our country back on track, and we know a lot about how to do that from here.
We appreciate you taking the time to be with us here this morning, Representative Congressman Blake Moore.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're back after this.